welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that drives F1's worst cars since 2010, so you don't have to, using the Codemasters games. And it's round 17 of 2012. It's the Indian Grand Prix. We're into the final four of this season with HRT, our only season with HRT, because at the end of this one, they cease to exist. It'll be 4 more races before they're gone. And as you can see, we are 14th in the driver standings with 33 points, which looks great on paper. However, if you watch the last round at Korea, you'll know it's far from that. We've had 2 pretty lucky results because of AI shenanigans in Malaysia and Singapore. The rest of the season's been fairly terrible. We're 3-1 down to Daniel Ricciardo in the rivalry. I thought it was a first to 3, but apparently not. But he probably could. He will definitely be able to wrap it up here, or at least make it impossible for me to beat him if he beats us here. And I said in the last episode as well that the Constructors' Championship could go down to the wire. I was wrong. McLaren could win it here in India. But let's take a look at the standings before we carry on. We're 14th, as I said, 33 points, 7 clear of Nico Hülkenberg, and 21 clear of Daniel Ricciardo, 22 clear of Verne, but some distance, 26 off Kamui Kobayashi. At the top end of things, Fernando Alonso leads by 2 points from Lewis Hamilton. Mark Webber is a further 40-odd back. And then it's Jenson Button, who's still just about mathematically in the driver's title fight. Sebastian Vettel, our 2011 champion, is not. He is 5th, and he cannot win the driver's title. So while Webber and Button are still mathematically in it, you'd say it's probably between Alonso and Hamilton, unless there's some absolutely crazy races like Singapore still to come. Rosberg's in 6th, ahead of Romain Grosjean, who was our early season pace setter. Raikkonen has come back from a poor start to be 8th, with Schumacher and Massa in behind him. There's Maldonado, Perez, Kobayashi. And there we are, ahead of Hulk, Ricciardo, Verne, Di Resta and Senna. There are all your point scorers. The no point scorers, the 2 Caterhams of Kovalainen and Petrov. Peak is ahead of Della Rosa. And there's Timo Glock, who is ahead of Narain Kartikeyan at the end of each race, but not in the Drivers' Championship in the hub. Just F1 2012 things. In the Constructors, as I said, McLaren can win the title here, which will be the first non-Red Bull Constructors Champion in our series so far. Red Bull took both drivers and constructors in 2010 and 2011. Webber in 2010, Vettel on came back in 2011. At the moment, it looks like neither drivers nor constructors is going to Red Bull. McLaren on the cusp of taking that constructor's crown. Ferrari in 3rd, they can still take 2nd off Red Bull, while Lotus and Mercedes are fighting out for 4th. Sauber in their own little bubble in 6th, ahead of Williams. And there we are, a point ahead of Force India, 10 clear of Toro Rosso, but well ahead of Caterham and Marussia, who are yet to score and don't really look like scoring, really. And that brings us to round 17 in India. So from here, it's Abu Dhabi, the first race at Kota, and Brazil. But the Indian circuit, the New Delhi circuit, Bud International, not really a circuit I've ever particularly got on with, even back when these games were new. I said last time out in Korea that I couldn't get the hang of the place, and then felt all right in practice and qualifying, and then just kind of had a bad race. And saying that I remember enjoying or being consistent and competent around Korea back when these games were new in 10, 11, 12 and 13. India, not a circuit I ever remember being particularly strong at. It's a really weird, I think it's the middle part of the lap after you've got through the big long straight. There's that kind of squared off couple of corners that are like, a little bit like the bus stop at Daytona or Watkins Glen, but they just don't feel right. Can never quite get that bit right. But there's also a mighty long straight in this one, much like Korea. So our little car with no power is going to really struggle to defend. So this could be another pretty dismal race after what was a pretty dismal race in Korea. And looking at what's left, Abu Dhabi might be kind of bad. Kota might also be kind of bad. Brazil might be the last time we have fun. Obviously, the last race of the season. Before we get into 2013, where I really hope that the Marussia is just a little bit more competitive. But we're not many races away from finding that out. But for now, let's forget about 2013 for a minute. Stop looking forward and look at exactly where we are. Do some practice at India. And while we do, we'll talk about the 2012 Indian Grand Prix. The Indian Grand Prix second running was round 17 of the championship, a championship which had seen a change in leader after Vettel's victory last time out in Korea. This race saw Nico Rosberg take his 125th Grand Prix start and also saw some controversy surrounding Ferrari, who ran the flag of the Italian Navy on their cars in support of Italian sailors who had been held by Indian authorities since a shooting incident in the February of 2012. The first practice session was a calm affair with no major incidents. Vettel topped the times ahead of Button and Alonso, the championship protagonists only separated by 0.4 of a second. Vettel would also top the second practice session, this time ahead of Webber and Alonso, while a few drivers span off on the dusty surface, though all continued without any problems. Vettel would make it a clean sweep in practice, leading Button and Webber at the end of practice 3. There were no shocks in Q1, the back 6 spots on the grid occupied by Caterham, Marussia and HRT, with Kovalainen pushing hard and spinning his car on his final quick lap, and ended up in the gravel. Jean-Eric Vergne would find himself eliminated in Q1, a semi-regular occurrence for the French driver. Q2 started with yellow flags still out for Kovalainen's earlier spin, and would later on see a few of the faster cars miss out on getting into the top 10 shootout. Schumacher, Grosjean and Kobayashi were all unable to get through, the Japanese driver especially out of place as he could only line up 17th in the Sauber. The Force Indias also couldn't give their home fans much to cheer about in qualifying, Hulkenberg managing 12th and De Resta only managing 16th. It would be Sebastian Vettel who took another pole position ahead of Webber, marking Red Bull's third consecutive front row lockout. The first time any team had achieved that since McLaren in 2007. Hamilton and Button would follow in the next 2 spots ahead of Alonso, who was beginning to find himself chasing his closest rival rather than leading him. Vettel got away cleanly and fended off his teammate with little issue into the first turn, while Hamilton got a poor start, first losing a spot to Button and then Alonso, though the three would trade places down a long back straight, Alonso eventually diving up the inside of Hamilton at the end of the straight. Further back, Vergne clipped the rear wheel of Schumacher's Mercedes, causing a puncher and forcing Schumacher to limp back to the pits. Alonso would stick with Button, eventually passing the McLaren to move into third while the Red Bulls ran away up front. Button would lose a further spot to Hamilton just a couple of laps later, leaving him to defend from Felipe Massa.
We are now third.
The race would settle down, save for a few battles lower down the order, between Grosjean and the 2 Williams cars, while Vettel was building a gap out front. It would look like a comfortable Red Bull 1-2 in formation for most of the race until Webber suffered a Kurz failure and would be passed by Alonso, the Spaniard making sure he was doing everything in his power to keep that championship battle going. Vettel would cross the line as the winner, his 4th consecutive win, but he was denied the Grand Chelem by Button, who set the fastest lap. Immediately after, Alonso had also taken the fastest lap off Vettel. Alonso would finish in his own bubble in 2nd, while Webber just about hung on for 3rd ahead of the charging Hamilton. The points would be completed by Jenson Button, Felipe Massa, Kimi Räikkönen, Nico Hulkenberg, Romain Grosjean and Bruno Senna. Post-race, many believe that Alonso was cost the race win by Indian customs, as Ferrari were unable to bring crucial parts to the track because of the complexities of the customs and border process. Alonso also found himself being stopped from publicly arguing with Ferrari technical director Pat Fry, who said the team needed to be perfect to beat Red Bull but were not, which Alonso deemed as a bit of a dig at his driving ability.
We think there's a chance of light rain in 15 minutes time. 15 minutes.
What can we do in qualifying in New Delhi? Well, we've only driven this place once, and it wasn't exactly a spectacular race in 2011, so the expectations aren't that high. Kind of like Korea, this place. It's really difficult to find a rhythm, and there's just that weird bit in the middle of the lap that are just really awkward to drive. We are, however, in the seat that in the real world is occupied by Narain Khan, so we'll have to try and give the home crowd something to cheer about in his absence. Call it a spiritual home race, I guess. Not really, but also, if you see what I mean. Let's gun for our traditional 19th spot on the grid to beat the other new teams, but see if we can somehow get enough of a rhythm to fight with the rest of them and see if we can set ourselves up for a decent race in India.
It won't be easy getting out of this qualifying session, but see what you can do.
And here we are in the garage for qualifying for the Indian Grand Prix 2012. Practice ended where it always does in P19. I wouldn't say I got a rhythm, but sort of started feeling a little bit more comfortable, but it's not fast. Reindeer, let's put it that way. I don't even think I'm going to be anywhere challenging P18, let alone getting out of Q1. But there was some traffic I encountered. It does get a little bit busy in the middle of the circuit, so that might trip a few people up. So let's try and get out early, get some laps in, and see what we can do here in India. And then to our fastest lap in qualifying. As you can see, already ahead of the fellow back marker cars, but some way off Jean-Eric Vergne. But we get through turn one, maybe get a little wide on exit, and swing the rear of the car around a little bit. But at least we're coming up to the hairpin at the top of the back straight with that in front of us. But he is on an outlap, so he immediately backs off out the way, so I can't use him for an extra bit of drag down the straight. It's just a case of pinning your foot and keeping the car as straight as possible as we head down to the second of the two hairpins at the end of this straight. Try and take a wide line in, which is exactly what we do, and bounce over the little bump on the inside curb, heading now to the end of the first sector. We're fractionally up on our best time, but still 7/10 down on the leaders. As we get into this really awkward bit in the middle, and we do run a little wide through the first part of it, which really compromises us through the rest. We're kind of driving cautiously, bouncing off a few curbs to try and shave some tenths off. And into this long banked right-hander, quite a fun little corner to drive. Come out of it, we're already slipping down the order, and we're actually marginally behind in the second sector, but 2.4 off the guys at the top. We already know we're not getting through this session. Into this kind of off-camber, bumped kind of hairpin. It's a tough corner to get right, but we get it there perfectly in the apex. A little wide in the final corner, and we're gunning it for the line. Will this lap be good enough by session's end?
One's good, but you're losing a lot through sector 2. You're where we predicted you would be. You're starting in 19th tomorrow.
And the traditional P19 at the end of Q1 did 2 laps. Was maybe getting a little bit quicker, span it out of turn 1 and tore the front wing off. By the time the repairs were complete, we'd gone from 11th and ahead of the likes of Ricciardo, Vergne and a couple of others to 19th, but also way off the pace. You can see we're second and a half behind Vergne alone. We didn't bother taking another lap, but we do at least beat Kovalainen, Della Rosa, Petrov, Peak and Glock, so the normal kind of group of cars down at the back. It's a very short run to turn 1 here as well, and then we lead onto the back straight. So much like Korea, it's going to be interesting to see what we do early doors. But let's get over to the race and see how we fare in New Delhi. in the garage then for the Indian Grand Prix of 2012, and as you can see, it is raining. We're going to be starting on intermediate tyres, which fills me with dread, if I'm honest. I feel like this circuit in wet conditions is going to be super treacherous. But let's take a look at the grid, and then we'll talk about our hopes for this one. It's a pole for Fernando Alonso, fighting for that title ahead of Jenson Button. Vettel in third, Maldonado impressive in fourth, ahead of Webber and Hamilton down in sixth. He's got ground to make up to fight with the Spaniard. Massa seventh, Grosjean eighth, and it's Rosberg and Perez. Hulkenberg in 11th, ahead of Di Resta, Raikkonen down in 13th. Bad day for him. Then it's Kobayashi, Ricciardo, Senna, Schumacher down in 17th. Another bad qualifying for the seven-time champ. And then it's Verne, there we are, ahead of Kovalainen, Della Rosa, Petrov, Peak, and Glock. And yeah, wet conditions around this circuit I feel are going to be really treacherous. It's going to be a 100% chance of rain, so it's probably going to rain all the way through. We might move to full wets, even who knows. We've seen a couple of times this season that if we start in conditions like these and get into a rhythm, Belgium, I'm looking at you, that actually we can have a good time of it. I mean, it negates DRS, but obviously everybody else has got a KERS advantage. So I think it's going to be tricky to keep people behind us. The team won 18th. I'm going to aim to just hold, I think. I'm going to aim for 19th instead. Because again, 2 races running now, we've been beaten by Caterhams and we struggled so much in Korea, mostly through our own fault. But we struggled enough to mean that we only just beat Kovalainen and Della Rosa across the line. So yeah, I think we need to just look at maintaining, try and hold off our fellow back markers. I think Ricciardo's going to be out of sight, but in conditions like this, you never know. There could be incident, there could be accident. We could pick up a fair few places from the AI struggling because they've not enjoyed wet conditions in 2012. But we got to get into the rhythm quickly. So let's get out onto the grid for the 2012 Indian Grand Prix. Alonso and Button there on the front row. There's Maldonado in fourth. There is Ricciardo out of Schumacher. There we are, Della Rosa right in behind us.
Okay, you've qualified higher than we expected, so let's try to build on this position throughout the race.
With a pep talk from engineer Andy as the lights go out and away we go in India. 30 laps to this circuit. We get a decent start because it's wet conditions. Kovalainen does eventually out-drag us, but only just. And let's try and find a gap. We found a good enough gap to dive up the inside of Daniel Ricciardo and Jean-Eric heavily into the back of Raikkonen. No damage though, he's struggling with cars ahead of him. Hulkenberg being shoveled out by his teammate. Up to P14. Everybody looking a little bit skittish in front of us. Let's just try and find a space. We do. We'll go to the inside. Hulkenberg came across. There's Rosberg. We avoid colliding with the Mercedes. We then have a bit side to side with Raikkonen as we got on the power. Yeah, it drags us down here. And we stay to the outside. Webber stuck behind Perez there. But we've just gone round Kimi Raikkonen. Into P10. It's a good start. Tricky through the middle sector. Wide open for Kimi, but he won't get through there. That's a pretty decent first lap. P10. There's a car way off at the back. Somebody's lost something. Ricardo's down in 17th. Yellow flag out, and I think it's Ricardo. He's falling off the back of the pack. Picked up damage early on. It's in. They're going to be way off the back of the field. Raikkonen is going to have the pace on us. Let's move to the inside. much like Korea, and later on the brakes into that hairpin. And defend from the Lotus. Not exactly losing the guys at the front as Raikkonen goes at the inside, and once again we'll to the outside, run a little wide. Now we'll lose the guys ahead of us, but we could still see their rain lights. We were heading off the back straight, so they might be gone now, though. There's Kimi Raikkonen. We can go to the inside. You know, he's going to brake early for the hairpin, and we should. Well, maybe not. I was going to say we should be able to breeze around the outside, but the Lotus does us there. Now whether we can get him back up into this corner like we did earlier in the race. He does defend though. To be able to just hold it around the outside and retake the position.
That was a great overtaking manoeuvre. You made that look easy.
Contact, no fuss, no worrying about a penalty. Jean-Eric Verne this way off the back of the field at the moment. Kobayashi also down in the doldrums down there at the back, so a couple of people have certainly had a bad start. Our little clutch of cars is broken up as well. Ricardo currently leading that group that includes Della Rosa. There's a lead pair and then a group of cars, I would say 3rd to 9th. And then this group here, led by me, 10th to probably about 17th. Another little group, and then Verne out on his own. Hulkenberg now up behind us. He's got past Raikkonen there where I've defended the position. There's Hulkenberg. Go to the outside. That's quite a small gap, Nico. We're able to just keep him pinned there. Run wide on the exit though, it's not going to do us any favours. The guy at the inside here. And the massive news for us is that Daniel Ricciardo is out. As long as we finish, we pull the rivalry back to 3-2. Probably pushing hard to try and catch up to the back of our little queue. Has spun it off, put it in a wall or something. And all we got to do is finish. Currently, running P10 and holding up this train quite nicely. Not massively under pressure all the time. That wasn't great. Hulkenberg now right up next to us again. Once again, we'll just sort of hold our line. He's not going to get close enough by the braking point, but he's not going to just send it up the inside. So we're off once again, and they all get a little bit out of sequence trying to avoid each other. Final corner. Going to give Hulkenberg a run. On the brakes, around the outside, back in front.
8 places up from our race prediction. Great job. Keep it up.
Struggling, but we're a couple of laps away from pits.
We think that Hulkenberg is due to pit soon, probably within the next couple of laps. We're
going to force India all over me again as Grosjean then falls down to 9th. Must be fighting with Sergio Perez up ahead. This has dropped out, so it's not a retirement for Grosjean. I think it's just fallen backwards. It's way up the road to us, so that's not really a concern. Pit stop's happening now, half distance. Maldonado's in up ahead. Interesting to see who comes in from our little group here as we come a little wide on entry. Hulkenberg has stayed out. Rosberg has stayed out. Senna has not. There's double stacking. It looks like De Resta's coming in. Going to 12th. Not bad going at all.
The track is clear. Track is clear.
It's going to be all about if we can fire out quickly so we can jump the couple of guys that stayed out, Rosberg and Hulkenberg. Feeling they're coming in at the end of this lap. Rosberg and Hulk both in. Awkward pit entry, but it's a short pit lane. Looks like Rosberg's jumped Hulk. Can we get out ahead of both of them? Just about, and I mean only just. Cut Rosberg off into turn 1. We're back into the top 10. Alonso's down to 9th. Must have got really held up in the pit stops. We remain in the top 10. 13 laps to go, so we've now just got to try and hold station for our 3rd point score of the year. Schumacher now behind us as well. Also behind us and flying. Schumacher will surely be on us down this straight. Hold position. To a point where they just don't want to go for it. A shallow line will sort of cut across them a little bit. Alonso is actually coming down at the moment. I wonder if Alonso has a problem. They are actually still closing on Fernando Alonso. How, and I don't know why, but they are still getting there. Unless he's gone full wets or something, or gone onto dry tyres and just not replaced them. Weird AI things that have happened in mixed/wet conditions races this season. At the end of the last sector it was 9.1, it's down to 7.8. Looking ahead as much as we are behind now. This is really going to be hurting his championship chance.
The monitors are showing us that Alonso is braking earlier than expected. His brakes might be running hot.
Maybe he's got brake issues. Maybe that's why he's so slow. But he's really losing time to a point where actually you can now just about see him disappearing around the hairpin. Just see that red little rain light flashing away up ahead. We're going to catch Fernando Alonso very, very shortly. The opportunity to go P9. Schumacher looks to the inside, doesn't want to go for the move. There's Fernando Alonso. Right behind the Ferrari. Well, you might be able to get him at the end of the straight, pulling away. Oh yeah, maybe it is a brake issue, and if it is, 2 now. Yeah, there he goes. Look how early he's braking. Does he get in Schumacher's way? He's right on us.
Currently we're 9 places above where we predicted. Let's carry
Absolutely
this to the
going to
end.
get in Michael Schumacher's way as he brakes for the corners. Run a bit wide. Yeah, Alonso absolutely doing us favours now. Catch him hand over fist. Can we get away from him hand over fist? If we do, can he do us a little favour and just hold everybody up? And doesn't look like it. Schumacher's got by him. 23 of 30. A little bit of time to go in this one. It's not what we wanted to do, we get it wide.
Okay, it looks like the car ahead is trying to create a gap. He's running full
Back
rev,
at the inside in the final
power.
corner, we'll take P9 back. Heart in mouth moment there. I'm not sure why we just drifted sideways, but what are we doing? Taking that corner like that every lap. Drive tense. One mistake, there is an entire queue of cars behind us. It's not like it's just Schumacher. Attempted to go through the narrowest of gaps. Rasta nearly spins out behind us. Held Schumacher off. Don't know why the AI insists on going for the narrowest
The car
gap.
behind has minor front wing damage. Front wing damage.
If we can do something here that we haven't done since our days with Virgin Racing, and that's lap our fellow back markers. I don't think we ever managed that in a team like this. I might be wrong. We might have done it once, maybe, but maybe in that Singapore race. But we do it consistently. Obviously, with Virgin, we did it a lot. As we move a little bit, that Schumacher lost his front wing. Did move a little there to try and defend the outside because I don't understand where they go down there. But Schumacher's got into the back of us, lost his front wing. Max pulled a Resta's turn to attack. So Force India are going to keep pace with us points-wise. Just going to hold this position. Paul the Resta's going to go to the inside, but again, not going to be close enough to make the move into the braking zone because they don't want to dive bomb. They won't dive bomb, but they will squeeze onto the grass to get past you. A weird feeling. Or rear end tries to go. We run wide, De Rasta's alongside. Rosberg's there as well. We'll do to De Rasta what we did to Schumacher a few laps ago. Rosberg will get through, which is kind of good news for us. Don't really want Force India scoring points. Not a lap of the race. Couple more laps to hold off. Fuel might just keep it enriched for the rest of the race. Where's Rosberg going to go? Yeah, just kind of hold the race in line and doesn't really know what to do about it. The group behind us is smaller. There's only 3 cars behind us, but still see us out in points if we make a mistake. Conditions still treacherous. Tyres worn. Got to be careful through this final lap in a bit. A final lap of concentration, I think, as we head towards that final lap. Not the corner right this time. Don't make the same mistake as the last lap. For the final corner. Onto our final lap then. Like I say, it's going to be a lot of concentration here because we're going to be under threat from Rosberg, who tries to go to the outside, but again we'll just stay in his way, but then we'll run wide. Sebastian Vettel crosses the line to win. He wasn't far behind us. We could have maybe just slowed up enough to be lapped, but we don't. We nearly lose the position to Rosberg through the first few corners. All over us pretty quickly. Which way is he going to go? We'll go to the outside. We'll come across, take the race in line. That's Paul De Rasta's turn. We've got Rosberg and De Rasta, neither of them close enough to the braking point. Been in the points the entire race. So moving into P10 early. An issue for Fernando Alonso. Saw him slow up and we passed him on track. We kept our position through the pit stops. Head through the final few corners. Paul de Rasta's right there with us in Force India. Rosberg's there. Senna's there as well. We defended our third place in Malaysia on merit, but we didn't get there on merit. We lucked our way into a P2 in Singapore, but we reined the final corner here at a wet India, and we're going to take P9 on merit in the HRT.
Well done, good drive. That's 9th place.
And as engineer Andy said, P9 in the HRT on merit as well. Took those positions at the start, held off constant attack in P10, and Fernando Alonso's brake issue, I guess, or whatever it was, saw him slow up, fall down the order, and we overtook him on track. Sebastian Vettel takes victory with Button in second. Hamilton gets 15 points on his championship rival by finishing third. Massa's fourth ahead of Webber, who, again, Button might have pulled himself slightly in the mix again. Mark Webber might be slipping back out of it. We'll see in a moment. Grosjean sixth ahead of Perez. Maldonado, there we are, P9 ahead of Paul de Rasta. That was a fight to get there, but we did it. Rosberg in 11th ahead of Senna. Then it was Verne, Kobayashi, Schumacher, Raikkonen. Fernando Alonso falls all the way down to 17th. Schumacher falls to 15th after hitting the back of us. Hulkenberg is 18th, and it's Petrov, Peak, Pedro de la Rosa, Kovalainen, Timo Glock, and Daniel Ricciardo didn't finish, so it's even more good news for us as we pull one back on our rival to make it 3-2 Ricciardo going into the final three. What does that do to the championship? Lewis Hamilton now has a 13-point lead on Fernando Alonso. Mark Webber, it's 45 back with 75 left on the table. Button mathematically still in it, but right on the cusp of being eliminated. Vettel already eliminated in 5th, well ahead of Grosjean. Rosberg is 7th, Raikkonen is 8th, and it's Massa. Maldonado jumps back into the top 10 with his point score, just a point clear of Schumacher, who didn't score any. Perez is 12th, Kobayashi's 13th. We remain 14th and pull a further 2 clear of Nico Hulkenberg. Ricciardo remains 16th ahead of Verne. Paul de Resta, who scored another point, and Bruno Senna in 19th. Then, point scorers, Kovalainen, Petrov, Peak, De La Rosa, Glock, Carter, Kayan. In the Constructors, McLaren, I think, have just about done it. They're ahead of Red Bull, who have pulled a bit further ahead of Ferrari after Alonso's no score. Lotus in 4th, still a little bit ahead of Mercedes, who are still a little bit ahead of Sauber. Williams remains 7th. We remain in 8th, still 2 points ahead of Force India after that 1 point for Paul de Resta. Toro Rosso in 10th, some 12 behind us. Then it's Caterham and Marussia. And well, P19 on the grid. I was expecting a race like this here, at a circuit like this, I was expecting to be difficult. I was expecting to really struggle and really not be at the races whatsoever. But we got a great start. And when we got into P10, basically never looked back. Managed to hold off onslaughts from the likes of Schumacher, Rosberg, Raikkonen, De Resta. Bruno Senna was in there as well. Yeah, managed to get a good start and hold it from there on in. Couple of hearted mouth moments near the end where we nearly lost the rear, nearly lost the car. But Fernando Alonso's issues meant that we could take another position and finish in P9, our 3rd point score of the year, and I'd say the one that is actually the most on merit, not down to weird AI pit strategies or AI not being able to drive. Only the one retirement in this wet race, and that was also Daniel Ricciardo, our rival, which makes the result even sweeter 2 more points for HRT, 35 in total. We're still not going to catch Virgin Racing's 2010 points total, I don't think, unless we manage to somehow win 2 of the last 3 races, but that seems unlikely. But we are well ahead of our Team Lotus score. So that means that the lowest of low bars is still 2011. It was even after round 2 this season, but it's just got better. Just another point score. Tough Indian Grand Prix, but rewarding in the end. Maybe this track wasn't so bad then. Thank you so much for watching this one. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the good stuff. You know the drill by now. I shall see you for the next one in Abu Dhabi as we get the run-in started. 2 more points for HRT. What a result. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.